ever since watching Sinners, I've been thinking about vampires so much. And it's telling me, for one thing, I need to do a Sinners episode. That's number one. Number two, I need to I need to. I just kind of want to discuss vampires in general, anyways, and that's why today's episode is Interview with a Vampire. And funnily enough, this we Interview with a Vampire was practically one of the first episodes of Shan Subs, basically. Well, yeah, because Shan Subs originated on TikTok, and now it's here. Now it's here. Now it's all over the place. Where it's on what's it called, it's on Spotify, YouTube, Substack, duh. And then yeah, that's where it is. So it's crazy that it's come like that far. It's crazy that like it's come that far, and like yeah, it's here now, and now we're actually doing a proper one. And we're going to be talking about Louis, Lestat, Claudia. We're going to be talking about the film version a tiny bit, even though I was actually talking to my mum about the film version. I was saying to her, like, yeah, the film version, it don't eat. And who's really thinking about it? It's crazy because it feels like when something is remade sometimes, it can just completely overshadow the other thing. Like, I feel um like I feel like Interview with a Vampire, yeah, the show does overshadow it in so many different ways. I mean, for one thing, because I was saying to my mum, oh yeah, Louis Delac in the show, he's black. And they made the choice to make him black, and then in the film he's not. And hey, it's not anything major. It's not like they said to us, oh, like it's not like there's anything that's ever said, oh, Louis can't be black. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's not like to say, oh, he can't be black or he shouldn't be black, because no one ever said that, right? Because it's like, what is it everyone's talking about at the minute? Wuthering Heights. But I don't really know. I don't really know if, yeah, if Cliff is supposed to be black or what it is. I just think what's very important for us as people, like, is that, we see ourselves in people. Do you know what I mean? Or that we obviously just get our equality, we get our flowers, we get our praise, the same way Ryan Coogler's done with Sinners. Like, Sinners has just been a gift to a lot of Black heritage people. And then I guess that's obviously why they made the choice to make Louis in this remake as a Black vampire. Do you know what I mean? A Black New Orleans vampire, and it's definitely necessary. And then also the fact being that yes, the era is New Orleans time. It's like, yes, it's necessary that Louis, like, we're like, yeah, Louis needs to be black, but not even like needs. It just begs that, right? We're just like, with how Ryan wanted to make this story about sinners. I'm saying, like, we all know that it had to be a story. It had to be a story surrounding Black people. I mean, mainly Black people, and then also just like, POC. It had to be all of that. It needed that. It couldn't have been as good as it was without that. So that's also the thing with Louis and everything like that. But then my point being is that I was saying about how this show overshadows the film. Like, I was like, when I first watched Interview with a Vampire, but like, I mean, this show. It's funny because I have to be like to you guys, no, the show, not the movie, the show. Because I don't feel like I remember the movie that well. Like, of course, the movie comes before the show, but if you ask me, oh, do I know of it? Like, do I remember what happened in it? Like, no. Of course, we all know how the story goes. Like, do you know what I mean? We all know what it's about, but I just can't really remember anything that really takes place in that film. And it's just like, I feel like the only reason why that's happened is because like now, because now, like, Interview with a Vampire, the show is in my thoughts. It's embedded, and it's all I think about. It's all I think about, you know? Eat, sleep, rave, repeat. But I guess eat, sleep, rave, repeat in the way that, like, I'm thinking about the show more so than the film. And you know what's funny? I don't think it's a diss on, like, Brad, or what's his name? Tom Cruise, and even what's her name as well? Oh, what's her name? But I know that she's from what's it called? She's from Virgin Suicides. But then other stuff, but mainly it's Virgin Suicides. I would actually quickly fact check that. But yeah, it's mainly um Virgin Suicides, right? Yeah, Kirsten Dunst. You guys be like, how did I forget that Kirsten Dunst's name? But literally, she was in that film, in it, as a young, she was a young Claudia, and they had her young as well, which was obviously even more perfect. But I guess that's what Claudia needed to be, because we meet Claudia young anyways, and that's what her gripe is. She was obviously turned as a young person in a young body, and so it was like she'd be maturing, and then yeah, she'd be maturing, but it'd be a thing where, like, her body would just be the same, and she didn't like that. She didn't like that she felt frozen in time to have this kind of infant teenage body, but then in mind she feels like she's an adult. Do you know what I mean? She's doing all of this stuff, and I think, well, obviously being a vampire will have you feeling that, like that anyways. Like, she's like, I can do all of these different things as a vampire. There's no way that I'm of a childlike nature. Aside from the fact that, okay, I can have bursts and tantrums, but that's all well and good. We all do that. We all do that, even as adults. So it's like, yeah, she's just like, oh, she feels so mature and she's a child. But we obviously all know what happens with Claudia, like why she is in that body, is because obviously she's turned by Lestat. She's turned by Lestat because she has an accident where she obviously was about to die, and then obviously it's like they practically adopt her and they make her their daughter. Like, we said, gosh, if we wanted a kid, we said, well, you're not allowed. Like, do you know what I mean? I think that's even like what is very upsetting, because it's like they would then bring somebody into their world of chaos, into their world of chaos, and the fact of being a monster for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. We know that if we talk about vampires, right? Edward didn't want to be a vampire. Neither did Damon. Neither did Stefan. None of them wanted to be monsters, because who wants to be a monster? And who wants to be undead? Nobody, right? No one wants to be undead. They want to be able. And the thing that I think is the gripe for most people, for most vampires, is that they don't get to have the thrill of experiencing the sun. They're just obviously slaves to the darkness, because that's the only time they can be out, and it's the only time they can do things that they want to do, unless, of course, because when I was thinking about the whole vampires thing, I was thinking about Vampire Diaries does vampires extremely well. Like, do you know what I mean? The fact that, yes, you can't come in without an invitation, tick, yes. You'll burn in the sun. But then these lot, like, of course, in Vampire Diaries, they have rings that stop them from being able to be affected by the sun. Do you know what I mean? And I guess, yeah, well, that's what the vampires and sinners needed. But yeah, they couldn't have got those. They couldn't have got those because, of course, they didn't have any or they could have, actually, because I suppose Annie was supposed to be some kind of, like, she was supposed to be into witchcraft of some sorts. So yeah, she was supposed to be she was supposed to be into magic, some sort. I don't. So I feel like, yeah, they could have. got rings. But do you know what I mean? When you think about Sinners on surface level, you think how amazing would it be if, yeah, like I think Sinners, like even though it was a movie and it was great, you think about the fact that if Sinners was a show, how crazy would that be? How crazy would that be? You think to yourself, those sometimes when movies are given shows or shows versus movies, right? It's always me throwing that up in the air because it's like obviously what we're covering. It's just like you think to yourself when something is a show versus a movie, you're just like to yourself, oh, if it's a show, will it get ruined? Will it not? Will it not hit the same if it's a show? Because that's what you even wonder about Sinners. I mean, Sinners is great because it's a movie and you're having and yeah, like you're sitting with it for 2 hours and what is it? 2 hours, 2 hours and 12 minutes. So you're sitting with it in that duration. Um, yeah, you're sitting with it in that duration. So you get 2 hours and 17. Sorry. So you're getting it in that duration, and then it's like, sorry about that. So you're getting it in such a on time, so everything's hitting you at once. This is what I say about like films and then shows, because shows have the ability then to just more come at you more gradually. But I guess when you're watching a film, everything is there up close and personal, right in your face, and you're just locked in. Basically, you're locked in, and that's what I'm saying. You think to yourself that maybe like Cinema needs to be in the format that it is. But then I'm thinking about the fact that obviously when I mentioned about the rings thing, you're like, if Sinners was a show, they might have been able to go on those kind of pathways and do all of that kind of stuff and say, oh yeah, we actually can beat sunlight because that's what Stefan and Damon do. They walk around with their rings, and so the sunlight doesn't affect them. So lucky for them. Do you know what I mean? But then of course they still have to do that same rule, which is yes, they need to be invited in and they can be staked to death. And also staked burned. Yeah, or I guess even Annie's thing, which was the garlic thing. Of course that garlic thing is a bit traditional, because the garlic thing I think probably stems back to like, I don't know. Like in terms of vampires, I mean, the history of vampires, I suppose, is like I think the garlic thing is more so like if you think uh Bram, Bram Stoker's Dracula, or like what's the other one, or Van Helsing, or something like that. Um, those are the ones. So I really liked Van Helsing. I don't know if people like Van Helsing, but I think it's great. I mean, it's Hugh Jackman, right? And I don't know, to myself, like, when you think of Hugh Jackman, like, yeah, 2000s Hugh Jackman, yeah, that was a different guy. That was a different guy. He's a great, like, he's a great multifaceted like actor. Like, I mean, he has so many layers, but I just mean like yeah, that was before. I feel like Van Helsing's like him before he was like singing. Even though I think, remember his career, like I meant his career started from, I think it was Broadway. He was on Broadway, and then he was here, and then he was doing all of that other stuff. Like obviously, when we think Greatest Showman and all those other ones. But anyways, so and then I feel like um yeah, so on the subject of Interview with the Vampire, though, I meant they are obviously slaves to the sun as well. So we're talking about Twilight is the one where obviously when we think about vampires, it gets really silly. I touched on that before. I think, oh yeah, I touched on it in January watches because I was like, oh, they make it look so weird, like when vampires fight, and I was like, it looks weird. It just looks strange. Vampire Diaries makes it better, of course, because it's all that like running around and throwing each other around the place. That's yes, but the snarling is no. But then it's like, um, what's it called? Wait, I feel like I lost my point. But no, I was saying about how Interview with a Vampire, that they obviously are able to kill themselves anyways because of the sun. And like you can just, yeah, but I feel like with Interview with a Vampire, it's like you feel so sorry for Louis because it's not something that he necessarily wanted. And then it's like, yeah, he didn't want it. But then I guess in the end, he just kind of accepted it. I guess it's what you have to do, anyways. If something like that does happen, it's the thing where you, in the end, you do have to succumb to it, because how else are you going to be about, and how are you going to be about and survive in the world? That's the question. It's the same way that like you can see how Stefan was very tormented by blood, but he knew that it, like, blood is like, I don't know, what do we call it, it's his heroin, it's his drug, but he has to take it because it's what he needs to survive. Obviously, unless, like we know in the beginning when we meet them, the Salvatore brothers, that he has to eat animals, but he knows that's not the, he can't necessarily live his life just eating animals. And also, I think the animal thing makes them, yeah, it makes them less strong. And then I think that's also something that they touch on in Twilight as well, because obviously there's this thing where, what's it called? Yeah, where Edward tells Bella that him and his family are vegetarians. But it's the thing where it's like, yeah, you guys aren't as strong as you would be if you were ingesting blood like every, like you know, like your counterparts. So it's crazy. But it's just like, anyways, I feel like I've gone darted all over the place. But let's go back. Let's refocus back on Into a Vampire. So there's Louis de Point de Lac, and then there's Lestat, who obviously he comes to Louis and he just sorts him out. Basically, the guy was stalking him. He was straight up stalking him. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy how much he was stalking Louis. He said, "You're obsessed with this guy. You want him. You want him." And the funniest thing was, like, I like how Interview Vampire touches on the fact where, like, Louis was like, "I'm not a homosexual," and we were like, "Yes, yes, you are." You know what I mean? It was so funny. He was like, "I don't like men." He was like, "I've been sleeping. I laid down with the devil." I was like, "Okay, all right. Why are you crying? Put your big girl pants on and get out there." You know what I mean? He was in that confessional box crying his eyes out. I said, "Dearie me, get a grip." Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what's so amazing about Louis' character. Like, he, at first, it's like he's obviously a fish out of water because he's a newfound vampire, and it's like, oh, it's scary, it's uncharted, you know what I mean? He doesn't know anything about it. But then he's like, okay, we can't fight this, so what we're gonna have to do is just be good at it, it's giving, like, it's a job, let's just put our all into it and see how we do. And that's exactly what he does. He just goes out and he says, "Okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna try my best at this." And I said, "Of course you are. Like, yes, as you should." And I feel like, exactly, like, when you think about like vampires, you're like, they have powers, right? They have powers, and I guess it doesn't. I mean, okay, yeah, they're stronger than humans. That's factual. That's literally factual, and they're so good at it. So, talking about, oh, empires are bad during me, because it's obviously what the topic of conversation has been. People are like, "Oh my gosh, if I was in Sinners, I would have," yeah, and I was like, "Yes, me too. I would have gone outside." But I would have gone outside because of just like the music, and I don't know. I mean, the whole thing that Emmett was talking about what was it? About equality and about community. That might have been I would have been like, no, mess me with that one. Like, you can keep that. All that, like, fellowship and like love. Like, I don't like, it's like, I don't like any of you. Like, I don't like any of you guys, and that's fine. Like, I don't like any of you, but it's like, you like to yourself, but eternal life, yes, please, we'll have that. And then also we'll have that, and we'll also have Bo Chow as well. We'll have him on top of that. Do you know what I mean? I just think to myself, Interview a Vampire, like with them and them being vampires, their story's sadder because Claudia's involved. I can't lie to you. If she wasn't, I think to myself, if she wasn't, maybe it would still be as treacherous because, of course, what I said, like, Lestat turned Louis, like, what's it called? Yeah, involuntarily. It was like, oh, I don't know, like it was crazy. No, because this is what I'm saying. When I watched Nature Vampire, I was like, yes, the start did force Louis into being a vampire because he said he felt like he could not have him, right? He could not have him. So because he couldn't have him, he took away his human life. And then the subject of, oh, I'm saving you. Like, Remek's whole motto, his whole goal. It's like that's what Lestat thought that he was doing for Louis. He's like, you're not in a good place. God has forsaken you. I will save you. And we're like, no, this ain't saving. Like, do you know what I mean? And Louis has that resentment to the start, like the whole way practically through their relationship. Obviously until close to the end. I think Into Vampire has 2 seasons as of right now. And then I think they announced season 3, like, was it yesterday? But it's gonna be here next year. Right, it's gonna be here next year. And I think season 3 is basically gonna be looking at it's mainly gonna be focusing on, oh, right, it's gonna be focusing on Lestat's story, I think. Yeah, which is obviously what we need, because it's very weird. Because the way Into Vampire works is that it feels like, yes, it's narrated from Louis' point of view, and then he's obviously also being interviewed. So there's also that. So it's like when you see different flashbacks or scenes, it's like you can't really tell whose perspective it is that we're really getting, even though it does feel like mainly it is Louis. Like, it feels like generally it is Louis rather than Lestat. So I think, of course, it will be interesting to see Lestat's, right? Because of course we're like to ourselves, Lestat's the bad guy, and he appears to be the bad guy in Louis' story. But when you think about two different sides of a story, maybe Louis will look like the bad guy in Lestat's story. We don't know, but because stories are always different, okay? And I've always said this. That's like like um you can look like the bad guy in somebody else's story, even though you're not. But two stories, yeah, I mean myself, two stories can't be the same, and that's what they know in terms of when you think of investigations. When two stories line up and they're exactly the same, somebody here is guilty. Like literally, someone here is guilty. Who that is? Yeah, who that is? We're gonna have to determine it. But it's the same. Um, with Leon Lestat, I feel like, because of course their love story seems so, what's it, to I was gonna say to I don't know how to say this word, but it does just seem chaotic. So you're just like to yourself, um who's really the bad guy in this relationship? How crazy is it that when you search the show, it just says a show that is dramatical in nature? Why would you say that? That's what they want to give? That's it? What's that? That's like cutting the smallest slice of the cake. You can't do that. That's not what Into Vampire is to be summarized as. It needs more. Give more. Like, do you know what I mean? And 2 seasons of it, and that's what you're gonna write? Gosh. The people at Google, guys, the people at Google, get them. Like, we said get them. Talking about the show that's dramatical in nature. Give us more. Anyways, what is it? A True Vampire film was a fantastic adaptation of the Anne Rice books. This series is absolutely next level. The acting, the storytelling, the writing all add up to give you a phenomenal series. Sam Reed, Jacob Anderson, Bailey Bass, Asad Zaman and Eric Bogosian could not have been cast better. Yes, Daniel. Guys, I feel like I should unpack some of the characters, but I will in a little bit. But yes, Daniel, Sass Queen. No, but like, because he's interviewing Louis, of course. Interview with Vampire. It says it. We said it's literally what it says on the tin. Like, it's literally what it says. He's interviewing Louis, and yeah, Louis's whole history as a vampire, and that's what I'm trying to say to you. I'm putting you guys in perspective. It's like, yeah, it's that Louis was being interviewed by Daniel, so it's a story that we get told from Daniel, from Louis' point of view. But then it's like I was saying about the perspective thing, is because we dive into so many different people's stories, like flipping Armand. We dive into his story. We dive into Claudius. We dive into who else? Probably no. Basically, other than Louis, I feel like we dive into Claudia and Armand. So it's like there's so many different perspectives, and they're just retellings. Because it's their stories that they've told Louis, and then that he has told. But it's like it makes you wonder, because it's like, of course, you're like, when you have somebody's just a one-sided story, you wonder if they're a reliable narrator or not. So yeah, because I guess in the show, isn't it, he was reading Claudia's diaries. We were like, first of all, that's an invasion of privacy, first and foremost. But obviously, that's what he was doing in order to give people, or to give Daniel, a slice into Claudia. So yeah, but it's like, I think that season 3 will be about Lestat. Um. So exactly, it says the next turn center stage is the stat, but I don't think we're going to be pushing Louis to the side like he is in those books. And the last line to do is saying, "I own the night." That is not an exit line. The season 3 description also states that Louis will be back. Right, exactly. He will. And as I said, of course, he would have to be back. Like, of course. There's no way that he'd be able to, like, that they would do the show without him. And seeing as, like, you know, I feel like a lot of Lestat's story obviously involves Louis. Right, do you know what I mean? We said, yeah, you're the one who made Louis like your entire world. So that's why I was saying there's like the story cannot be told without him involved in it. Like, do you know what I mean? It would be really, really weird. Um, I think they're saying what is different in the books, but like obviously, I don't feel like I don't feel like shows really follow books anymore. You know, they don't really. It's so crazy. It's what I've always thought about, how like Twilight the film never gave us Edward all that much than in the books. Like, I actually, did I read that? I mean, I read Twilight a little bit. I don't think I finished it, but I did read it a little bit, and it was like, yeah, the film didn't give you a lot. And then plus, it's a thing that Twilight fans have spoken about, is that it didn't really give you an insight into like Bella, or like, but as much as like there was a lot of deleted scenes. I think I've seen some of them. There's deleted scenes, and then also they say that like Edward was more, what's it called? He had more, I don't know, he had more character, because I feel like obviously the Edward that we get, which we were like, no diss on Robert, because that's not his fault. Like, this is what we're saying. Like, first of all, that's not your fault. It's their fault. Like, you know what I mean? They could obviously go to the book more, and I think we obviously should. I know, not that we should bring that back. I meant in this case, in Interview Vampire's case, no, but in some other cases, yes. Like, it's like some stuff like need to use the book like a textbook or a manuscript. and really show that. I think what I was looking at when I was looking at Twilight the other day was that um they don't show Bella a lot with her friends, and in like I feel like what is it? It's a jump from like, okay, you see her friends with her in Twilight and New Moon, but then there's stuff missing because I feel like they should have obviously they kind of just made the story, yes, about Bella and Edward, but like probably too much. Like it felt like it was just all about them when they could have also showed her with her friends, and they could have done all of that. Like, do you know what I mean? They could have literally dived into all of that. Anyways, okay, so hold on. I think I need to put a pin in that though. But I was gonna say that obviously I'm gonna talk about um the characters, but put a I will put a pin in that because obviously I now wanted to move on to I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about vampire shows, okay? I feel like the big three are True Blood, True Blood, Vampire Diaries, and the originals. There's no way around it. And you decide what the ranking is. If that, you know what I mean? You decide what the ranking is. My personal ranking would be, hold on a moment. Scary. Hold on. Yes, it would be True Blood. It would be True Blood, the originals, and Vampire Diaries at the end. And look, that's no diss on Vampire Diaries because the Vampire Diaries came before the originals. Of course. It was, yeah, exactly. It was its predecessor. Okay. And then of course I think they said like there wouldn't have been the originals without the Vampire Diaries. I don't think. Yeah, because obviously Klaus and Elijah are introduced to us through Vampire Diaries. They come in they come in the season, like probably like season 3 or whatever, or 2. Yeah, 2 or 3, right? I mean, I'm rewatching actually, so yes, it's 2 or 3. And then what happens is, so yeah, we're introduced to them, and then I guess afterwards, when like they're not in like Vampire Diaries story anymore, it's like of course they give them their own one. So, and I think most people do say that there's a debate of that what's it called, that the originals is better than Vampire Diaries, and I do literally hear it. Like I do. I think for me, like the only reason sometimes why I'm like that, I'm always like, oh, I don't want to say that because it's like I have probably more loyalty with Vampire Diaries, and yeah, I have more loyalty with um Vampire Diaries just because yeah, it's the first one, so you're like, meh. But yes, the originals is better. Like I think like to dive into their whole story is great. The whole concept of family, it's more emotional as well. And then Klaus is right. Klaus is the best. Like I'm sorry. Klaus is a great guy. Sorry, slow down. He is the man, he's the moment. Like, sorry. I was like, great guy. No, he like kills all his siblings whenever they piss him off, which is crazy work. It's crazy work. And everyone was talking about Klaus in regards to Sinners, and it was like, yeah, Klaus would not have been playing games. He's doing all that waiting around. I don't think so. He's like, what? Remix like, I'm just gonna stand out here and wait for you to change your mind. Klaus said no. I'm just gonna come inside, right? I'm gonna come inside. Well, you know when I was rewatching Vampire Diaries and I was like, oh yeah, my favorite scenes when Elijah gets what does he pick up again? The stones or the pebbles? Yeah, he picks up the pebbles and he throws it into the building. And I was like, yeah, yeah, that ate that day. And then everyone's all on the floor. And I was like, yeah, that's the best way to destroy a building. Literally, best possible way. And I think that's obviously what the debate was about Klaus. Klaus would just be burning down that building. He would not be waiting. He's like, I'm not gonna wait for you to come out. And you know, also Klaus would also be doing a lot of hooting and hollering, not even just singing. He would just be shouting. Like my guy, he's the way we are. He's always saying Rebecca. He would be just screaming. He would be just screaming. And that would be even worse, wouldn't it? He'd be making bare noise, and I guess like his noise is what would let him in. But then on the subject of noise, of course, that was how the vampires wanted to lure them lot outside from sinners. They wanted to get them out of the juke joint by singing to them. And that's why I said I keep thinking about sinners and I'm like, I wouldn't have like not like come out of there. Like I would have come out. I'm sorry. I just can't help it. And music's good. And I love that, with sinners is that there's so many different like music genres, I mean. So blues blues, country, and folk. If you think about it, I mean, like those are the main three, and those are great genres. I like I like all three of those. I said I'm not hard to please. Yes, I'll come out. Don't worry. What are we about to sing? Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'd be like, what are we about to sing? It's fine. But then I do think about the whole thing with vampires and just, I don't know, eternal life. It's a bit like, Of course, it's like, okay, yes, we want to live forever. But then I just think it's so weird. It's a double-edged sword, I feel like. Because, of course, you'd be swayed to die, but then, there's freedom in being able to to die. Do you know what I mean? I mean that like, it's not like, oh, death is a gift. I mean, some people would debate that, but I just mean like, and I guess death is also a mercy as well. Death can be seen in so many different ways. Death can look like a punishment, a mercy, freedom, and all the different things. And it's like, I guess it's great to have the freedom to die because you live each day like you're lost. But then it's like, if you're a vampire and you're living forever, like it's not even all it's caked up to be, Of course, you're living forever, but you're drinking blood, and you can't even go outside. You can't even go outside in the day. Please, that's crazy. And daylight, as we know, is probably one of the best moments of the day. But I mean that can also be debated actually. But like people be like, nightlife is better, but no, I hate nightlife these days. Yeah. I was like, wait, that statement was crazy. But no, I was like, I'm not fond of it. I do feel like the day is more nice. And I feel like you can only really appreciate nature in the day as well, because I don't really feel like you can appreciate nature at night. Unless, I don't know, unless we're talking about maybe the ocean, but then I don't like the sound of that either. Like I think to myself, even probably seeing the beauty in nature at night is just a bit like no, because right, things bump in the night. You get it literally. That's the whole thing Sinners is trying to like promote. We said nighttime is when the things come out to play, and I think I saw Dr. Umar's breakdown on Sinners, and he was just talking about the fact that like, sin is one of those things, like we're all attracted to sin. And yeah, and there's so much things which you can see in Sinners where it's like them gyrating, and then obviously what is it that Smoke says, or either Smoke or Stack, we're like, which one is which? We don't know. He's like, oh, this wake's gonna be stanking, and we said, oh, but yes, with lust and and desire and all of those other things. And those are the things that nighttime like promotes, like, having a dance, but also, indulging in the devil's, I don't know, playing into the devil's hands. Maybe even that's the better, maybe that's even the better line. I meant playing into the devil's hands and like, drinking alcohol, taking drugs, and like kissing one another. So doing all of that crazy stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. But as I said about my list, I would say yes, that is correct. Those three are right. And I feel like, what did I say? Did I say True Blood was number two? Yeah. Or no? Sorry, I put True Blood at number one, innit? Right. I put True Blood at number one, and rightly so, because True Blood is so good. Like, True Blood is so good. Um, why is True Blood good? Because it just is. Like, why is it good? Because it is. Should I expand? Okay, I will. Like, um, for one thing, I think when I was talking about this, I don't remember when, maybe was I can't remember when, but I was talking about, you know, how people explore the supernatural and how they do it. Like, True Blood has that. Like, it has its, like, its layers. It's not just a thing where, like, and I feel like, maybe that, actually no, that is a lot of stuff which center vampires, of course. They always want to have all these other people in it, which is basically like people like witches and um witches and all that kind of stuff. Because I swear, like, in True Blood, Suki is supposed to be a psychic, but then it's found out that she's supposed to be some kind of fairy witch. Like, she's supposed to be some kind of um thing. But then obviously when you think psychic anyway, you obviously do think witch. And then, okay, I guess with psychic and mind reading, you also think vampire as well. But I feel like with Shookies, it's more supposed to be it's supposed to be more about like fae fairies. That's what it's supposed to be. So yeah, so I really like that. And then True Blood also has, so like fae, which is Suki, and then you have werewolves, and then you have, because obviously the werewolf is her boss, and you have, what else do you have? There's so many. There's actually so many. Like, there is so many. But I literally, yeah, True Blood's one of my favorites. And it has, True Blood has a great, what's it called? True Blood has a great intro. When you came in, the air went out. But yeah, so yeah, Bill and Tara and Eric and Lafayette. R.I.P. to Nelson Ellis. To Jason. So yeah, it's crazy. And you know, because True Blood is similar to like uh Sinner, but just in the ways that like everyone's freaked out. But not even freaked out like freaked out, but freaked out like down and dirty freaked out. Do you know what I mean? Like, True Blood has a lot of those like same scenes that Sinners did, where it's like spitting in people's mouths and um sitting in people's mouths and doing all of that crazy stuff. That's why True Blood actually does have its like, that it does have some like, it's, I think it has a very obviously high rating. It's 18, I'm sure. Um and like it has yeah, like how it says here, it has comedy, action, drama, love, sex, etc. etc. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but I thought to myself, of course, Sinner would have to have put sex in the mix, and that's what I was saying. I thought, was I saying it to my mom? I was just talking about vampires, and I was saying that because anyways, yes, we say, how does Ryan Coogler use, yeah, so he says that vampires serve as a powerful metaphor for cultural appropriation, assimilation, and the parasitic nature of outsiders who exploit black culture. Right? Do you know what I mean? Because vampires are leeches. Do you know what I mean? They drown, drown. Hold on, wait. I'm finding it. No, they. Wait. Sorry, they, is it drown though? I feel like it's not drown. It's probably like they steal, like as in all of the things. So the film uses the vampire trope to explore themes of generational trauma, institutional racism, and the ease with which violence can become normalized. The vampires and sinners are not just monsters, but symbols of external forces that infiltrate and tear communities apart from within. And literally, that's what I feel like. That is what vampires are used for in like film and TV programs. That's what they're used for, right? Every time we see that a vampire comes into a town or anything else, everything just comes apart, innit? Everything comes apart, and yeah, everything is changed. So yeah, and I think, what does it say? Oh yeah, parasitic nature of exploitation. So yeah, and that it uses vampires as a way to highlight the ways in which power dynamics and systemic structures can lead to cultural appropriation, assimilation, and the perpe- bleh, perpe- perpetration of violence and trauma within marginalized communities. And literally, exactly. The vampire has continued to fascinate us as a symbol of both threatening and ideal concepts of human subjectivity, embodying various forms of otherness. Crazy. And that the symbol of darkness, fear of the unknown. Vampires embody primal features. Oh my gosh, wait, you know what I just thought about? There's also um Castlevania, right? Look, I always have to bring anime into everything. But yes, Castlevania. Castlevania had great vampires. Um, so and that Sinners is a paranormal allegory where vampires represent a parasitic rage that comes from outside and destroys from within. And exactly, that's all human. I mean, vampires are always trying to do, which is destroy mankind. Exactly. I remember wants to be talking about, oh, he wants to create community. The guy's a liar. The guy's a liar. He's not a racist. Cool. He said that's fine. He said, yeah, I don't discriminate, but the guy's still a killer. It don't matter. We said it. He just wants to rip down the foundations. Okay? He wants to tear them apart, and he wants to make sure that they're left with nothing. So there we go. It's crazy. Um, Vampires are scary. I'm like, what? Vampires are scary. But it's crazy because when they show us vampires in Vampire Diaries, though, we're just like, Vampire Diaries are not all bad. That's what it's also like. It's so weird. But like, we're like, actually, vampires are not evil as they're supposed to be. You know, as they say they are. They're actually nice people. And I think actually another thing that Vampire Diaries does, of course, is the whole humanity switch thing. You know, which is a very interesting uh part to put in it. Even though, guys, before I say that, like, we don't like Julie Plec here though. So I just wanna make that clear. Like, you know what I mean? You know when you think about that and you're like, oh yeah, a show is good. But Julie Plec? Right, no. I hate it when you have to do that. Like, it's like we're like, okay, this person created something, but they're not a good person. They're not a good person, right? Because no, I don't even want to get onto this. I don't even want to get onto this because I'm supposed to be saving this for my Vampire Diaries episode, yeah. But it's just like I don't understand Julie, like, and the way that obviously like they treated Cat Graham. I'm like, you're all like, you are a racist. You can't tell me anything. You're a racist and I know it. And then the fact that like we as like viewers and enjoyers, we all said, oh yeah, I'm convinced Bonnie and Damon like each other. And we're like, but then Julie's like, no, I don't want to give the okay on it. Girl, it might be your show, but if we don't watch it, then where's your money? You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. That's what always gets me a bit irate. I'm always like, these people will just be like, oh no, I'm going to make it the way that I want. But you have to make it in a way that people will continue to watch it. And like, you have to also Yeah, you have to give people what they want. But hey, saying that makes it sound like, actually, that statement makes it sound like terrorism. But no, no. I know people can agree with me. And the thing is that when I look at Julie, I'm sorry. When I look at Julie, she looks evil. She looks evil. It's crazy. I don't mean to be mean. Um like, you know, thinking this might be out of character for me, but dearie me, Julie just seems like a mean lady to me. And like, she just appears that way. Like, and all of her pictures, she's smiling, especially she's smiling with Cat. Like, oh no. A woman who's smiling, like, there we go. Like, don't get me started. I said a woman who's smiling all the time. What do you have to be happy about? Okay? Like, hello, me as a woman, do I smile that much? No. Do I smile when a man tells me to smile? No. Good gosh, no. And they make it even worse when they say statements like that, because now I don't want to smile. Do you know what I mean? That's why Julie's off. Julie's off and she's fishy. I said, why are you smiling in all of your pictures? Give me a picture where you're not smiling for real. Do you get it? It's just all of them. All of them. Okay, sorry, I found one where she's not, but that doesn't matter. Like, I found one where she's not, but it doesn't matter. It's crazy. And I just think about how great more Vampire Diaries have been, if not for that. I guess it's like, I know in Vampire Diaries, of course, Bonnie and Damon start out as not being friends, and they are friends, and their friendship grows, and it's great. And they were just like, yeah, let's just keep them platonic, and let's say that, yeah, they're gonna be platonic and they're gonna be best friends. Even though we all know, people who watch Vampire Diaries, we know how close Bonnie and Damon got. We know how close they got, and how they got to their closeness. We said, bro, if if they don't kiss, yeah, you better close. You better log off. Like, you better actually log off. But anyways, we're like, I'm gonna go back to talking about to a vampire again. So I'll start off. I'll start off with I'll start off with Lestat, right? Um, Lestat, my bum bum, come to me and let my million arms around you. Because right? You know what I'm saying. Why I was talking about in the beginning how Interview with Vampire, the film, I mean, wait, no, the show overshadows the film, is because, like, Sam Reed gave us something that we didn't know that we needed, but Lestat is so much more better than him. It's crazy. Like, and it's like, obviously I compared both scenes. I think when it's, you're a killer, Louis. Wait, you're a killer, Louis. It's who you are, or something like that. How does the line go again? Wait a moment. Wait a moment. Yeah, do you know what I mean? He says, "You're a killer, Louis," and then, right, because that's trying to tell him that he's a vampire and he has to get used to it. But right, I was like, yeah, kill them swiftly if you have to, but do it. Embrace what you are. You are a killer, Louis. And then, way that I just said it, that's Sam's way, right? That's Sam's pronunciation. Tom Cruise? I don't know. It feels so flat, so dry. I don't know. I can't really I can't really say that I enjoyed it, you know? Um, and I don't know. Everyone we think of Sam as a stat, we're like, that's our that's our complicated king. That's our, you know, that's our embodiment. We love him. It's crazy. Do we really love Tom Cruise as a stat very much? And then maybe we could say we haven't had him. Like, I mean, in terms of our ages. I just mean a generation, then maybe it's like, oh, that doesn't really appeal to us as Sam's Reed does, because it's more glossy and it's more and it's glossy and it's current. So that's what I think it is. Like, I don't know. That's what I mean. I think I probably was having this conversation with my mom again. I was probably saying to her that, like, yes, I love the Interview with Vampire the show because it's new and it's brand new and it's giving. But that's not to say that the Interview with Vampire the film is bad. It's not to dismiss that. It's very good. Um, and like, you know how it's very good. Like, I meant like the cinematography into Vampire is very great. And also the outfits. That's all great. Um, I feel like in my 55 minutes, haven't I basically spoke about like so many different vampires, and I feel like I don't even know if I've talked about if I've spoke about Interview with That Vampire all that crazy, but I feel like the conclusion is you guys should watch it, like, and that's literally what the episode's for. Um, and of course, I always try to keep these minimal, or when I'm talking about a show, I mean, I always try to keep minimal because um it's like if I talk too much about the show, then I'll end up spoiling, and that wouldn't be good for anybody. That wouldn't be good for anyone. It's all about wanting people to watch it and have a chance at doing so. So yeah, I think that you should now go away and watch Interview with a Vampire. And if you do, share your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, I will probably maybe do the character thing a bit more maybe in the comments, but I also might not. I like to keep it mysterious. Like, let's give the mystery here. Me just dropping the names to you, you're like, who's Armand, who's Daniel, who's Lestat, who's Louis, who's Claudia. Do you know what I mean? And who else? I really enjoyed season 2 actually. I will say that. That's my final note. I really enjoyed season 2 because obviously I feel like season 1 versus 2, it's like it's more of a deep dive. And then yeah, it's more of a deep dive, plot twists as well. And yeah, who doesn't love a plot twist? Right. That should be enough. Thank you for listening.